welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classics S9 Classics. This is the 550th episode of this series, and the 456th double shot. What am I going to review for my 550th episode? Why? The second and third volume of X-Men Gold. Yep. And I'll get my thoughts on these books. First up, it's Volume 2, Evil Empires, collecting issues 7 through 12. There's about a few different stories in here. Art with the writing by Mark Guggenheim, who's still writing the book, by the way. And yes, I do know about the whole thing about Kitty Pryde and Colossus getting married in issue 30, which is a good idea to do. Artwork for the first 3 issues in this tree is done by Ken Lashley. Awesome artist. He also does the cover with David Carell. Issue 10 through 11, that's done by Lynn Medina. Ken Lashley also does the artwork for issue 10 as well with David Carell. David Carell does it with issue 11 with Dave Marina. And the last issue is done by Luke Ross with Ken Lashley in the artwork and Nolan Lord as on the artwork for those issues. Yeah, there's a few different stories in here. First up, it's a 3-parter involving, stuff happening in, as I think it was like a tie-in to, yeah. The first 3 issues are a very loose tie-in to Secret Empire, where they're investigating a serial killer, which had been, it was a subplot during the first 6 issues that there was a serial killer going around killing mutants. They do find out who this guy is, and who this guy is, they don't give his name. He's a guy that we have never seen. I've never seen this guy before at all. I've read a lot of Marvel comic books. Yeah, apparently he's killing mutants because a mutant killed his wife and son. That's the reason for this. Okay? I love the guy's look. Let me show this guy's look. This guy's got a really cool looking look. He's kind of like Jason Voorhees in a way, but this guy can talk. Excuse me. I'd say look-wise, that is one badass of a look. Yep. Probably demons, stuff like that. Yeah. As for the X-Men's involvement during the events of Secret Empire, yeah, despite being a tie-in, it's a very loose tie-in. They see what happened during, I think it was issue 1 of Secret Empire, when the Dark Dimension basically put a bubble around the island of Manhattan. Also in the storyline, Rockslide and Null and Dust do something. They do very little, because apparently the X-Men writers have no idea what to do with the younger X-Men characters, younger than the classic characters. Yeah, it's like characters with the exception of Laura. Any character who showed up in the past 18 years, the writers of the X-Men comics have no idea what to do with these damn characters. Because in here, they show up for maybe a few pages here and there, and that's really it. The opening 3 issues are really good. Despite being a tie-in to Secret Empire, it's just what the X-Men. It just explains what the X-Men were up to during the Secret Empire. 10 and 11. 10 is one of my least favorite issues. It has my biggest gripe of the series. Yeah, where Kitty Pryde is called to Washington D.C. testify before Congress over the Mutant Deportation Act. Man, this sounds so stupid. And the fact this is probably just a play on the immigration stuff going in real life. I have no idea why Guggenheim thought this was a good idea. But there is 2 awesome moments in this issue. One, we have the return of Whiplash. First time in a while I've seen this guy. And I'm not talking about the guy who wear the feather in his hat. I'm talking about the one who's inspired by the one from Iron Man 2. Let's see if I can find him here. Also, during the 3-parter, there's a reference to the fact what happened in the Nightcrawler book, where Nightcrawler, he can't die anymore. Yep. Let's see if I can find the page here. And look, it's Anton Vanko, Whiplash. Those of you who are familiar with This guy, he first showed up in the miniseries Iron Man vs. Whiplash. The only reason why this particular villain was created as sort of a tie-in to... he was created as a tie-in to Iron Man 2. That's really the only reason this character's creation. This character has not really shown up that much. After that miniseries, popped up in Secret Avengers, popped up Avengers Undercover. Aside from that, he doesn't really do all that much. But the most badass moment of the whole issue comes the return of a villain who, I think at this point, he'd been dead for, I think about 10 years. I know that his clone did pop up in Deadpool and also popped up in McKinney X-Force. And I'm talking about one of the most awesomest X-Men villains. Heck, this guy made an appearance even in the 90s cartoon. And I'm talking about Omega Red. Yeah, this one badass of a villain. He gets resurrected. Now, some wondering, how the heck did this guy die? Especially with this armor. Yeah, there is an explanation for this. In issue number, it was Wolverine Origins issue 39. Wolverine used a Masama blade, which is made with a piece of Wolverine's soul, which it can block healing factor. Basically, Wolverine stabbed him in the gut and he died. He first used this sword against Sabretooth by first chopping off his arm and then decapitating him, though this was later retconned to be a clone. Of course, he also killed Wild Child as well. Yeah, and this, I gotta praise the X-Men for not bringing this guy back. Yeah, it's kind of like recently, thanks to this book and Blue, it's like any X-Men villain who've been dead for a while or not been seen in a long time, they're just bringing him back. It's like, okay, not a bad idea. Probably because Marvel stopped punishing the X-Men for no reason. Mm-hmm. And then, like, you have issue 10. Issue 9 was the issue when they went to Russia. 7 and 8 were the time of the Secret Empire. 11 was simply the X-Men going to Russia, Peter, Colossus, and Magic meeting their uncle for the first time. And it's basically a good standalone issue. Oh, yeah, and apparently it's revealed that Russia has a version of S.H.I.E.L.D. called Sickle. As for what it stands for, no idea. The last issue is just the origin of the alien who popped up during the first arc of the series. Yeah, it explains his backstory. And of course, it kind of takes place during, and of course, the ending of the issue kind of took place during issues 7 and 8. Yeah. This is awesome. I love what it did in here, and I'm going to give this book with the exception of what happened with issue 9, I was really ticked off with the whole thing of the Mutant Deportation Act. I think it's stupid. Thank God, basically, Rugenham basically did something callback to this by having it where the populace think that the whole Mutant Deportation Act is stupid. Though this happens after the events of the next book, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. I'm going to give this book a 9.25 out of 10. The only reason I don't give it a 9.5 is because of the Mutant Deportation Act. Though it's awesome to see Omega Red again. Also, thanks to these particular issues, Colossus and Kitty Pryde are a couple again. And also, Nightcrawler and Rachel Gray are a couple, which is interesting. Yep. Next up is Volume 3, Mojo Worldwide. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. The end of the last trade is Mojo comes back. First time in a while I've seen this guy. Because I think for a lot of people, they had not seen Mojo in years. I think the last time I remember seeing him, I think it was Endangered Species. No, wait, he did pop up. Actually, last time his last physical appearance was toward the end of Peter David's X Factor series. I think it was like issue. I think it was like 259. Yeah, it was that part where Richter and Shatterstar went to Mojo World. Mm-hmm. I think that was the last known official time that he popped up. And that issue came out, I think it was back in 2013, and these issues came out last year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, bringing back Mojo, brilliant stroke of genius on the part of Mark Guggenheim and Colin Bunn. Though this trade collects issues 13 to 15 of X-Men Blue and 13 to 15 of X-Men Gold. Colin Bunn does X-Men Blue, and Mark Guggenheim does X-Men Gold. The Gold issues are done by issue 13's artwork is done by Matthew Mayhew, and Mark Lemmy does issue 14. 15 is done by Diego Bernard. 13 to 15 is done by Joe Malonia, with Art Adams on the artwork for all the issues. For the first 2 issues, the Gold issues, Don Maria and Mora and Carlos Cabrera does the artwork for he does the cover for issue 14. 13 is done by Arthur Adams and Peter Stegwood. Mm-hmm. Now with this book is simply put a good popcorn flick and a great way. This is basically, I would say, Guggenheim and Cullen Bunn's love letter to the X-Men franchise, because they have the X-Men, thanks to Mojo World, revisit classic X-Men stories like Fall of the Mutants. X-Men's Fall of the Mutants. It was a Mutant Massacre, the Dark Phoenix Saga, Days of Future Past. They didn't go Age of Apocalypse, surprisingly. Yeah, it's like any of the really good X-Men stories. Oh yeah, they revisited Inferno. Yeah, which is a bit of a surprise. Oh, I almost forgot though that prior to this in X-Men Blue, they based the X-Men Blue characters met Bloodstorm from the Mutant X series. Yeah, the version of Storm who is a vampire. Oh, and they do have this cute little moment, a really cool moment where Old Man Logan meets his son from an alternate timeline, Jimmy Hudson. It's like, so you're my son. Yep, from another universe. Yep. Yeah, it was a quick little thing. I would have loved it if Bloodstorm and Storm, regular Storm, would have had conversation, but nope, they don't. Also, during this crossover, apparently it looked like Bloodstorm died, but nope, she actually survived. Yep. Oh yeah, it's also heavily implied that Scott and Bloodstorm are a couple, which is interesting. Oh, and also, I thought this was really nice. Rachel calls Cyclops dad. He's like, okay, you're older than me, but I guess I don't have a problem with it. He's like, I guess I don't have a problem with it, but when in the field, call me Cyclops. And she's like, sure, why not? But I think he understands, though, that Rachel is his daughter from the future. He understands that, but he's a teenager. Him being a father at that point in time probably is a bit confusing even for him. Oh, and there is one X-Men story that Guggenheim and Cullen Bunn had to revisit. It's a storyline that it's probably by far the most mixed received crossover I have ever seen for Marvel Comics. Yeah, I had the review of the trade for it. And what crossover they revisit? Like what last crossover they revisit is a recent one. A crossover that happened as of this year, 6 years ago. What crossover I'm talking about? Avengers vs. X-Men. Yeah, they revisit that one. I'm like, okay, I get maybe revisiting stuff like X-Tinction. Yeah, that's mentioned here. X-Tinction, Days of Future Past, Massacre, which, by the way, basically Magneto goes on a rampage against the Marauders. And Polaris gets to look like Sage for some reason. I don't know why. But revisiting classic stories, aside from that, but revisiting now, with the exception of Avengers vs. X-Men, I think anybody who is an X-Men fan would love this crossover. It was actually, get this was the first crossover Marvel Legacy for these two titles. And I gotta praise both Guggenheim and Bunn for doing a fantastic job for people who are X-Men fans. And the crossover ends with Mojo being stranded in 616. He can't go back to his own world. Longshot pops up in here. I think this is the first time he's actually physically appeared in a comic book since his own miniseries. Yeah, not since Longshot Saves the Universe miniseries. Yeah, that was back, I think it was like 2014. I think this came out, it'd been like 3 years. And bringing back Mojo, terrific stroke of genius right there. Because he is a classic X-Men villain. That's him right there. Mojo! Mojo. Having him return awesome. And revisit. Oh yeah, and also I gotta point this out though. Guggenheim and Bunn have a quick cameo by Spider-Man where he's like, "My spider snake is tingling, you can't get through the thing." And also the champions briefly make appearance. So the champions pop up in here. Just Nova, I think Miles pops up in here, Vision, and the Hulk. So it's Amadeus Cho. There's nothing really bothered me about now, with the exception. Now the last trade was was a deportation thing that really bothered me. This is pure awesomeness at its finest, and it's one great story. And I'm gonna give this a 10 out of 10. This book is fantastic, and I highly recommend it, especially people who are long-time X-Men fans. You would love this story, though you'd be kind of bothered with the fact that they decided to include Avengers vs. X-Men as one of the crossovers I decided to revisit. Okay, so yeah, that's it for this episode. Next episode, I'm going to talk about another X-Men storyline that happened last year that kind of led into this series. I have talked about it, the couple tie-ins for this series, for at least for a couple series like Extra X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, and All New. I've talked about most of the tie-ins for this series, but I've not talked about the main series itself, and you'll find out what it is in the next episode. Alright? But until we see you out there, bye.